What's up? Welcome to everyone's favorite online jiu-jitsu series, The Road to Blue Belt. As you can tell from today's title, I'm talking about how to deal with BJJ injuries from a white belt's perspective to a white belt. So this is my first time dealing with a jiu-jitsu related injury. I sprained my ankle. I was defending a single leg takedown and I rolled my ankle pretty badly and I had some peroneal tendon damage. So what I've learned thus far is a couple of things. First one is probably the biggest: don't return to training too early. For context, I took about a week off. I could weight bear on the ankle, but it was still quite painful. So I took a full week of resting and then back on the mats once I got the physio's thumbs up the next week, and I started training like normal again. This was a terrible mistake because I re-damaged my ankle in the second class that I attended. I was in mount. I tucked my feet underneath to secure my mount, and my opponent rolled me right on top of the ankle, and we're back to square one. So that was another about half a week off, and I've only just started to return to training now. And what I've learned is if you go back into training and don't compensate at all, you're going to re-aggravate the injury. Don't be a hero like I was.
www.don'tbeahero.com.
So now what I'm doing is I am showing up to training, but I'm just drilling. I'm not rolling. I need to give my ankle time to heal properly. Otherwise, a week setback is going to turn into like 2 months. If I get like some sort of ligament or tendon tear, then we're out for 3 to 6 months. It's made it way worse. By sacrificing your time in the short term, you're providing yourself time to heal and you're preventing long-term damage. The guys from Bulletproof for BJJ talk about this concept in their podcast. I'll put a link to that in the description. If you haven't heard it, it's definitely worth a listen. And what they spoke about in their most recent episode is that for the life of a white belt, a week seems like a long time. They use the analogy of comparing it to a baby. A day in the life of a week-old baby is a seventh of their total life. So a week in the training journey of a white belt seems significant, particularly if you've only been training like me for about 7-8 months. However, for a black belt, a week off training is insignificant because they've trained for years, and it's not even a blip on the timeline that is their training lifespan. So if you take that into consideration, and if you're in it for the long haul like I'm trying to be, then a week out of your training schedule isn't really that significant once you are at a black belt level and once you have been training for a while. So the second thing I learned is to try to see the silver lining and use it as an opportunity to work on your weaknesses. As of late, I've been trying to study my notes. I do take notes after each class, as I have mentioned in a previous video. I've kept that habit up. During the class, if I don't have another drilling partner when everyone's rolling, if no one else is injured and wants to just do some drilling, I review my notes, use it as an opportunity to ask my coach questions, and I try to observe my other training partners rolling and see what they're working on, see what works for them. The third thing I've learned, and this one comes from my coach, he gives the advice to everyone that's injured, even if you can't even drill, he wants you to show up to class. Now, this is a pretty typical coach-like thing to say, like show up, rain, hail, or shine, even if you can't train. I mean, I get where he's coming from, but the reason behind it is, and this is another thing that I got from the Bulletproof boys, that when someone is really embedded into jiu-jitsu, when it is their lifestyle, when they're really a member of the community and it becomes a significant part of their life, being injured, you feel isolated from your community. You feel isolated from the thing that you love and your family, essentially. So by showing up to class, you're going to be still involved in that community. You're going to have that community support around you. I need to, full caveat here, I didn't show up to training when I knew I couldn't even drill. I didn't do that. So that is something that I didn't do this time around. But if for whatever reason, if in the future I do have an injury where I know I can't even drill for a couple of weeks, I'll still endeavor to show up to training and be a part of that community and to still be thinking about jiu-jitsu. Fourth thing that this really reaffirmed to me is to work on your weaknesses physically. Now, I'm not talking about the point I made previously about working on your jiu-jitsu weaknesses, but your physical weaknesses. So for me, I know that my ankles are quite weak. I have rolled this ankle a few times in the past, albeit the last time I rolled it was about 5 years ago, but still, this is something that I know I need to continue to work on. And it was a bit of a wake-up call for me. Jiu-Jitsu is a hard sport. It's a full contact sport. It's a combat sport. There's going to be times where you're put in positions where you may not be strong in those positions. This really reaffirmed to me the significance of working on my strength and my mobility in my weak areas. So for example, moving forward, I'll be working on my proprioceptive balance on particularly my left, but as well as my right ankle. So I'll be doing a lot of balance work in the future to make sure that this doesn't happen again and it doesn't become a chronic injury that keeps reoccurring. So that's something I'm going to start weaving into my training schedule. So that's what I've learned dealing with my first jiu-jitsu related injury. What I want to know is, have you dealt with any injuries? All my white belt friends out there, have you had any jiu-jitsu related injuries so far? How'd you manage it? Did you show up to training? Did you jump straight into it like I did and make it worse? Or how'd you manage your recovery? I'm really curious to see how other people have managed it and see if I can get some more ideas on how I plan to manage it in the future. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing to the channel and chuck a thumbs up on the video. It does help to support the channel and help us grow. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.